Hey guys, Anthony from Go Industrial. So we get a lot of questions around how do I set up my Graco sprayer, how to actually spray, and how to clean up my Graco sprayer. So we've put together a 3-part series to answer those exact questions. This is part 3. If you missed part 1 and part 2, you can check those out in the description below. We've got them linked. We've got Jacob on site who's going to run you through it, so let's jump to that now.
So we're going to show you right through the flushing process now. This is probably the most time-consuming process, but it is the most important. Rule of thumb, if you're storing for any more than 2 days, do be very thorough. So flush right through until the water's running clear. If you are going to be painting a lot sooner, please still make sure that you flush out all your tips, you flush your lines out. The worst thing we want is dried paint in any of the lines or the pump. As you go to start up your next project, you're going to have a very big headache. And we're obviously here to help, but it's not a fun experience. So let's go through the process now. Currently the machine's on, no pressure to the gun whatsoever. We're in prime position and we're just going to initially prime the paint out of the pump to transition to water. So what we'll do here is I generally have 2 buckets of water. I have a clean bucket that we leave to the side and another bucket of water that we're going to clean off the main suction hose. So we're not going to mix that in straight away with the clean water. So we'll do that now. So that's our suction hose there. Just going to dunk that into the water. Move our paint out of the way. We'll need that in a sec. Straight in. So what you want to do is you want to get a rag or a cloth and you want to try and clean off as much excess as possible. I'll just use my fingers here. Okay, so now we've got the main suction hose in a clean pail of water. We've got our drain tube in our waste pail and we're just going to prime out the paint, which you'll see. We can actually prime the excess paint back into our main paint supply. So you can straight away see how the paint's changed from a thick consistency to really thin, which is the water. So that's where you want to cut off that flow straight away, turn your pressure off. We know that water is now primed through the pump. So our next step is we're actually going to flick the unit into the spray position and we're going to work up our pressure to flush whatever paint we have in the hose back into the paint drum. So we will obviously want to recover as much paint as possible because it is liquid gold. So at a very low pressure, we're going to hold our hand down on the trigger while there's no pressure to the gun. And as we work up, we'll start to recover the paint. So you can see it there, it's nice and thick. You'll notice as the paint starts to dilute, I'll cut off the pressure. So you'll notice when you're pumping back through and spraying through the gun, that it'll go from a thick consistency to really thin and watery. That's when we know that the paint's starting to dilute more with the water. I've cut off the flow and now I'm going to flush the excess out of the paint line. So we're just going to keep it at no pressure whatsoever in the spray position. We're going to put it back into prime. I'm going to pull the trigger to make sure there's no pressure built up. I'm going to put back into spray and then I'm going to work up the pressure again. So next step is, it's currently under pressure. I'm going to screw back on our spray guard with our spray tip. And we're going to flush out our spray guard and our spray tip as well. So now we have a second empty paint pail. I've got my spray tip and my spray guard from before. I'm going to reverse the tip and this is just clean water. And I'm just going to flush those tips out. Both ways. That way I know that any excess paint build-up's been flushed out. And I'll continue now to actually scrub this with a soft bristle brush in some clean water and make sure that the actual tip itself, both the orifice, is clean and as well as the back of the tip guard. It's really important to do this step and make sure that the back of your one seal and the guard is nice and clean because next time when you spray, this might cause any unnecessary spitting that you don't want. So we used an extension and a CleanShot while we were spraying and this has got paint built up in the extension itself. So I'm going to screw that back on now and I'll actually flush these 2 components through just to make sure that again they're nice and clean. I'll deep clean these further once they've initially been flushed and that'll again just be either under the tap or in a bucket with some water with a brush. Screw these back on. So again, if I want to flush, relieve the pressure, pop it back into spray.
Hey guys, future Anthony here, the one who was behind the camera on site with Jacob before. We reviewed the footage and realized there was a couple of things missing in the end there. It was Friday, so we're probably eager to knock off early. We'll just pick up sort of what we missed out and go from there. So where we left off, we had fully flushed the lines through, and by fully flushed, I mean flushed through with water until the water was clear. We have removed our tips and we put them in a bucket of water aside, ready to be scrubbed down, free from paint. The next step now is to make sure that the pump is fully cleaned out and that clear water is flowing through, and then we're going to prime some pump armor into the machine for storage. So let's get into that. So we've got some paint primed in the line, and what we're going to do is we're just going to take it out of the paint, just let it sort of drain back into your paint tin, then replace it with a clear bucket of water. So we've got our suction tube in a clean bucket of water. Full disclosure, to flush the machine out fully, you probably need 2 to 3 full buckets of water. So we've got our suction tube in another clean bucket of water, and we're just going to prime this until we see completely clear water through this. Sometimes you won't get it completely clear, it might be a little bit murky. Just keep priming, then clean up the suction tube, which we'll show you with some dry rags, and then another clean bucket afterwards, just to make sure that the water is definitely clear and there's no paint left in that line. So got it in prime here, suction tube in some water, drain tube in a waste pail, and let's get that all flushed out. So we just want to turn up the prime slightly. So you can see there that it's still quite murky, so it needs a bit more flushing. We want to make sure that the suction tube's well cleaned as well. So as we're priming, we're just going to use our hand and a rag just to clean any of the paint that might still be attached to the suction tube. So just keep priming that. So with this bucket here, the best we could achieve was a very light murkiness with the leftover paint that was still on the suction tube. Cleaning that all off, it's not going to be fully clear. So we're going to go through with another bucket of clear water, and that should be enough to get it fully clear in the line. And then we can show you how to pack it up with the pump armor. So I don't know if you can see that, but you can basically instantly see that it is clear there. Just for good measure, we're gonna flush through the rest of the bucket just to make sure that there is no paint at all left in the line. So that's the bucket fully empty. We flushed through the line. This is our third bucket of water and it's completely clear now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just make sure that there isn't any paint left over on here. Reattach this to your main suction tube, and then what we're going to do is we're going to prime through some pump armor. Now, if you're going to be using the machine a lot and you're only going to be storing it for about 1 to 3 days in between uses, you can dilute the pump armor in water. So that's just a 1 to 10 ratio. So 1 part pump armor, 9 parts water. However, if you're going to be storing the machine for longer than that, we'd recommend priming the pump armor undiluted into the machine. We'll show you what both of those might look like now. So we're going to show you how to dilute the pump armor with some water and prime that through for short storage periods. So we've got our 4-liter pump armor. This also comes in a 950 ml bottle as well. So we're just going to pour 1 part pump armor into this water. We want it to be a light medium blue color consistency. And so we're just gonna, same as before, prime this through. Cool, and as you can probably see, you can see that the pump armor has been sucked up into the pump and out through the drain tube. Once you have the same color consistency coming back out your drain tube, it's been fully primed into the pump and you can turn it off. Now what you want to do from here is, while it's off, switch it into spray, pull out your drain tube and make sure that you just hold it there for a second so that way it doesn't spill everywhere. Give it a shake. And that is it. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoyed the series. It's been great fun having you along. If you got any comments, leave them below. If there's anything else you want to see, leave a comment. If you're unsure about anything, get in contact. Always happy to help. Happy spraying.